Why is this Yu-Gi-Oh card banned? Part
21.
Last Will. Last Will is a normal spell that, if a monster was sent from your field to your graveyard at some point during the turn, you can special summon any monster with 1500 or less attack from your deck. Only once, thank God. So why did it get banned? This card was released in the TCG's second ever product, the Yugi Structure Deck, and this card was great shortly after release when you were only summoning recruiters off of it. But it wouldn't be long before you could summon magical scientists from your deck for free. Then, a few years later, you could summon Cyber Sign or Rescue Cat, meaning that at any point, your opponent could just activate Last Will and OTK you out of nowhere. It was a broken card that worked very well with other broken cards. Could this card come back?
No.
This might be the hardest no yet. Last Will can summon any monster with 1500 or less attack, and I mean anything. This thing is E-tally for pretty much any starter in the game. For example, it can summon any of the small Snake Eye monsters, Chundra, Genroku, and pretty much every Yubel monster. Comment what card you want to see next. Why is this Yu-Gi-Oh card banned? Part 22, Fairy Tale Snow. Snow is a level 4 light spellcaster that can banish 7 cards from your hand, field, and or graveyard to summon itself from grave. This is a quick effect and not once per turn. Also, on summon, it sets an opponent's monster face down. So why did it get banned? Snow is actually banned twice. The first time was in 2019 because of Thunder Dragons. They have many ways to send a large amount of cards to the graveyard, and on top of that, they all have effects that trigger when banished. Snow is able to act not only as an interruption, but also get you an insane amount of advantage by banishing Thunder Dragons. Snow was later brought back in 2022, but was banned only 8 months later. This was because of its synergy with Chaos Ruler pile decks, as well as a little known deck known as Tierliament. You may have heard of it. Could this card come back?
Yes.
Snow is unlimited in both the OCG and Master Duel. It is very powerful in those formats, but it isn't breaking the game by any means. It's not even that mill decks are bad, since decks like Horus, Tier, and Grass do exist. My theory as to why this is because summoning Snow multiple times is actually pretty difficult, meaning she really isn't able to be abused too much. Still a scary card, but I could see it coming back at some point. Comment what card you want to see next. Why is this Yu-Gi-Oh card banned? Part 23, Chaos Ruler, the Chaotic Magical Dragon. Chaos Ruler is a level 8 Dark Dragon Synchro with generic materials. On Synchro Summon, it excavates 5 cards, adds 1 letter dark monster among them, then mills the rest. Also, it can summon itself from the graveyard by banishing a light and dark monster from grave. So why did it get banned? A generic 8 that effectively draws 1 and mills 4? That's insane! This guy was a very powerful starter from many Wombo combo decks that wanted lots of cards in the graveyard. Though, what really pushed it over the edge was its synergy with Punks. Off a single E-Telly plus a discard, you could Chaos Ruler to mill 5, then overlay it with a level 8 Punk to make Zombie Vampire and mill 4 more. Basically milling 9 off a single card. You'll never guess which deck made great use of this combo. Could this card come back?
Hell no.
Chaos Ruler does way too much for how easy it is to summon. Graveyard-focused decks have only gotten better since its ban, and any deck that could make it would. From Dragon Link to Horus to Lightsworn, these decks would absolutely kill for a mill 5 that can also be linked off twice. Comment what card you want to see next. Why is this Yu-Gi-Oh card banned? Part 24, Union Carrier. Union Carrier is a Link 2 that requires 2 monsters with the same type or attribute as materials. It can target a monster you control, then equip a monster from your hand or deck to it with a matching type or attribute. So why did it get banned? Union Carrier was very clearly intended to be able to equip Union monsters from the deck, what with the name and the reference to Union Hanger, but this thing was responsible for one thing and one thing only, the Buster Lock. Basically, you would set up your board like normal, making sure to summon Borreload Savage Dragon, a common end board piece at the time. You would then link off for Union Carrier to equip Savage with Buster Dragon Destruction Sword. While it's equipped to a monster your opponent can't summon from the extra deck. So now your opponent has to play through your board without their extra deck. Fun. Could this card come back?
Hell no.
While Savage Dragon is now banned, it isn't hard to get a dragon and or dark monster on your end board. And even if Dragon Buster was banned, Union Carrier is still basically Foolish Burial on a semi-generic Link 2. Just link off whatever you equip and boom. Comment what card you want to see next. Why is this Yu-Gi-Oh card banned? Part 25, Tierliament Kitos. Kitos is a fusion monster that requires both a Tierliament and an Aqua monster as material. On summon, she adds or dumps a tier card, can send a card you control to the grave to special a tier monster from hand or grave, and if she's sent to grave by a card effect, mills 5. So why did it get banned? Tier was the most powerful tier 0 deck we have ever seen, and it's not very close. And one of the main reasons this deck was so good was because of Kitos. With only the first part of her first effect, you could add Sheeran or Rhino for extension, Sulliker Havness for interruption, or Merlead combined with her second effect and mill 8. Not to mention you could also dump any name for a free summon of Rolkalos. That's just the first effect, and there's already an insane amount of options, so hopefully this gets the point across of how busted she was. She was banned alongside the limitation of not only the 3 Tierliament girls, but the Ishizu cards as well. Could this card come back?
No.
Tier has still topped events in the wake of Kitos' ban. The deck is very much still playable, and while yes, they would love to have her back, they really don't need it. Also, we definitely don't need another tier 0 format. Comment out cards you want to see next. Why is this Yu-Gi-Oh card banned? Part 26, Agito the Ancient Sentinel, and Kelbeck the Ancient Vanguard. Both of these cards have the same relevant effect too. If they are sent from the hand or deck to the graveyard, mill 5 from both players. So why did they get banned? These cards are part of the Tier 0 Ishizu Tierliament deck. They synergize incredibly well with the tier cards that not only have great ways of milling themselves, but also all have graveyard effects. If you manage to mill Agito and or Kelbeck, the board would likely look like this. Another fun part about these cards is that they milled your opponent too. Sure hope you didn't need any of your cards to stay in the deck, cause it wasn't unlikely to have 10 cards milled off your deck before your turn even started. Also, the fact that they were 4s that could theoretically summon themselves meant that they could also be half of an Abyss Dweller or a Baguska. Could these cards come back? Oh, no. Tier is still very much around and is doing completely fine without them. Not to mention other mill decks have entered the format since, like Lightsworn and Horus. These cards should also just stay banned because of how annoying it is to have your deck milled against your will. Comment what cards you want to see next. Why is this Yu-Gi-Oh card banned? Part 27, SelfDestruct Button. SelfDestruct Button is a normal trap that can only be activated while your opponent has 7,000 more life points than you, and all it does is make both players' life points 0, forcing a draw. So why did it get banned? It might be confusing why a card that only causes draws is banned, but it comes down to how tournaments are run. At official tournaments, you had 40 minutes to complete your best 2 of 3 match. If time ran out before this and no player was ahead, each player would get 2 turns to attempt to win. If the game isn't over by then, whoever had more life points would win. Basically, you would play a deck that's sole purpose was to lower your life points to 1,000 or less just to activate SelfDestruct Button for 40 minutes straight. Once time was called, you would side in a bunch of life point gain and or burn cards and just stall for 2 turns. This strategy was by no means meta, but it was disruptive enough to get SelfDestruct Button banned. Could this card come back? Oh no! Time rules have actually changed to benefit SelfDestruct Button. Rounds do last 45 minutes now, but instead of each player getting 2 turns to win, the game ends at the end of the current phase. This means you can get cheese in time way easier, making SelfDestruct Button stalling even more obnoxious. Comment what card you want to see next. Why is this Yu-Gi-Oh card banned? Part 28, Victory Dragon. Victory Dragon is a dark dragon with 2400 attack. It cannot be special summoned and needs 3 dragon monsters for its tribute summon. However, if this monster wins the game with a direct attack, you win the match. Not the duel, the match. So why did it get banned? For those unaware, in a competitive setting, Yu-Gi-Oh is played in a best of 3 format. So if this card wins game 1, you wouldn't play games 2 or 3. This is obviously unfair, as it's not that hard to win game 1 when using a gimmicky deck like Victory Dragon. It would summon a whole bunch of monsters while DNA Surgery is on the field to make them all dragons, then attack the opponent for the match. Now, everything I said was true, except for the fact that in the TCG, this was never happening. In the TCG, you are allowed to forfeit whenever you want, so when your opponent declares an attack with Victory Dragon, you can just concede and you'll only lose the duel, not the match. This caused uproars at enough tournaments and confused enough judges to get the card banned. Could this card come back? Oh no! This card would suck, but there would definitely still be players who would try and force it, then get upset when the opponent scoops before they swing for game. It promotes unsportsmanlike behavior and as such, should stay banned. Comment out cards you want to see next. Why is this Yu-Gi-Oh card banned? Part 29, Heavy Metal Foes Electromite. Electromite is a Link 2 monster requiring any 2 pendulum monsters as material, and on summon, places a pen monster in your extra deck face up. It can also destroy a card you control to add a face up pen monster from your extra deck to your hand, and when one of your cards is destroyed, you can draw 1. So why did it get banned? Electromite was created to help Pendulum transition into Master Rule 4, and wow, this card just does everything. It sets up your extra deck, effectively searches for any pen card, and also draws. There wasn't a specific combo that broke this card, but it was so powerful that every pen deck morphed into Electromite Turbo. It was so common and so over-centralizing for the mechanic that it was eventually banned in 2020. Could this card come back? Yes. Regardless of your opinions of Pendulum as a mechanic, they are severely underpowered in modern Yu-Gi-Oh! Even with newer cards like Beyond and Exceed the Pendulum existing, they struggle to play in the current format. Electromite is also completely legal in both the OCG and Master Duel, and Pend is still doing nothing there. Pen players have dealt with enough, so we can let them have this one card. Comment what card you want to see next. Why is this Yu-Gi-Oh card banned? Part 30, Predaplant Verte Anaconda. Verte is a generic Link 2 that can pay 2,000 life points to dump any fusion spell to copy and apply its effect. Then it locks you out of summoning for the rest of the turn. So why did it get banned? Verte was most often used to summon Red Eye's Dark Dragoon or later on Destiny Hero Destroyer Phoenix Enforcer. It was mostly relegated to being the best thing you can do with leftover bodies, or I just got hit with 3 hand traps and Verte is my only play. Verte was a fine part of the meta, but was by no means broken, until players discovered a very simple combo that would have Artifact Dagdas to Artifact Scythe, then have Verte summon DPE to pop the Scythe on the opponent's turn and lock them out of their extra deck. Could this card come back? Yes. Verte is no doubt a strong card, but with Scythe now banned, this card gets much worse. First off, it takes a minimum of 2 extra deck slots as well as 2 to 3 Garnets in the main deck. You also need to use one of the 3 good fusion spells for Verte to copy, meaning the only decks that would play Verte would be fusion decks, which Verte was designed to support. Verte's niche now also has competition from SP Little Knight and Scylla Hat Rabbit. They basically serve the same role as Verte, but with way fewer garnets. Comment what card you want to see next. Why is this Yu-Gi-Oh card banned? Part 31. Guard Dragon LP and Agripane. LP is a Link 1 dragon and Agripane is a Link 2, both requiring 1 to 2 dragons as their respective materials. They both have the effect of summoning a dragon to a zone 2 or more Link monsters point to. LP summons from deck and Agripane from extra deck. So why did they get banned? These cards were responsible for the first iteration of a deck we would come to know as Dragon Link, a deck that pretty much plays every good dragon card in existence. These two were responsible for so many degenerate combos and endboards that I can't possibly list them all. But the primary suspects were Hot Red Dragon Archfiend Abyss off of Agripane as an Omni Negate, and Red Eye's Darkness Metal Dragon off of LP, who at this point had a soft once per turn effect to reborn a dragon monster. They helped contribute to the impossible to break boards that 2018 was known for. Could these cards come back? Hell no! These cards have only gotten better over time. Agripane can still summon Hot Red, but now also could summon Dispatter, Borland, or even Crimson Dragon for free. LP also has brand new targets such as any Rocket, Bestial, or even still DMD. Comment what cards you want to see next. Why is this Yu-Gi-Oh card banned? Part 32. Premature Burial. Premature Burial is an equip spell that pays 800 life points to summon a monster from the grave and equip itself to it. And if either the monster or pre-mat are specifically destroyed, they both get destroyed. Not once per turn, by the way. So why did it get banned? This card was released very early on into Yu-Gi-Oh, a time when resurrection effects were at a premium. They represented a way to get big monsters onto the board for free. This card is a staple in GOAT format for this very reason, alongside Call of the Haunted as the premier revival cards. However, unlike Call of the Haunted, pre-mat has to specifically be destroyed to also blow up the equipped monster. This means that bouncing the card back to your hand allows you to reactivate the spell without destroying the equipped monster. This led to some crazy combos that obviously weren't intended, so the card was eventually banned in 2008. Could this card come back? No. This card would likely only be played in Infernoble Knights, Makonko, and not much else. I think this card should stay banned, but I will say that my opinion has softened quite a bit since its oldest ban. Comment what cards you want to see next. Why is this Yu-Gi-Oh card banned? Part 33. Fishborg Blaster. Fishborg Blaster is a level 1 water fish tuner that for the discard of a water monster can be special summoned from the grave as long as you control a level 3 or lower water monster. Not once per turn. The only restriction on this guy is that he can only be used as synchro material if the other materials are all water. So why did it get banned? This card was one of the best combo enablers for its time. This card saw lots of play alongside the frog monsters to spam out lots of powerful synchros. It was played in Frog OTK as the primary enabler for said OTK, and later as an additional mode for Frog Monarch decks to let them OTK out of nowhere. They would use Blaster alongside another level 1 like Treeborn Frog to make Formula Synchro to synchro climb up into big boss monsters like Colossal Fighter and Shooting Star Dragon. This became a bit too consistent and powerful, so the card was banned in 2011. Could this card come back? No. Obviously this card is busted with Link monsters. You could guess that by just reading the card. But the main reason is that this card would absolutely break Mermail Atlantean. The deck's gimmick is that their monsters trigger when they are discarded for a water monster's effect. Blaster provides them with not only infinite Link material, but infinite discard fodder too. Comment what card you want to see next. Why is this Yu-Gi-Oh card banned? Part 34. Ronin Toden. Ronin Toden is a level 2 aqua that can banish a frog from grave to reborn itself, not once per turn. Only restriction is that it cannot be used as synchro material. So why did it get banned? This card was the third piece of the frog FTK. You specifically would send frogs to grave to fuel Ronin Toden's continuous resurrections. However, despite both Substitute and Mass Driver's ban, Ronin Toden managed to avoid it. It continued to be a powerful rank 2 enabler in rank 2 decks like Paleo for many years, but the deck to finally break it was Sprite. Sprite is a deck that revolves around level, rank, and Link 2s, and was very powerful. The frogs were played as a supplementary engine that acted as extra Link material as well as a way to make totally awesome. Ronin alongside Swap Frog gave Sprite several extra bodies to not only start their plays, but to extend into huge endboards, which led to Ronin's ban. Could this card come back? No. Ronin's old partner in crime, Substitute, has since been unbanned. Both those cards are individually busted and should never be legal at the same time again. And I'd argue that Ronin would do so much more bad for the game than Substitute has since coming back. Comment what card you want to see next. Why is this Yu-Gi-Oh card banned? Part 36. Tempest Magician. Tempest Magician is a level 6 synchro monster requiring a spellcaster non-tuner. On summon, she places a spell counter on herself, can discard cards from your hand to play spell counters equal to the amount discarded, then finally she can remove all spell counters on the field to burn the opponent for 500 per spell counter. So why did it get banned? FTKs, yeah! This card was responsible for some shockingly consistent FTKs. However, on release, this wasn't the case. Spell counters as a mechanic were so underpowered that the thought of getting the 16 counters necessary to FTK was completely unreasonable. That was until the release of the Endymion retrains and subsequent archetype. Now, there exists a deck that accrued far more than 16 spell counters through its basic combo and could easily facilitate Tempest Magician. Overnight, the FTKs it enabled went from a 10% success rate to about a 95% success rate. Could this card come back? Oh no! This card serves no purpose aside from FTKs, and if Konami ever wants to print more cards that use spell counters, they'd have to think about this card too. Comment what cards you want to see next. Why is this Yu-Gi-Oh card banned? Part 37. Prank Kids Miamu. Prank Kids Miamu is a Link 1 requiring a level 4 or lower Prank Kids monster as material, and during your opponent's turn, if a Prank Kids monster would tribute itself to activate its effect, you can ban itself from the grave instead. So why did it get banned? Miamu's effect was pretty much irrelevant to its success. It was just a Link 1 that had Prank Kids in the name. All the Prank Kids main deck monsters have effects that trigger when they are using materials for the fusion or link summon of a Prank Kids monster. In addition to this, they synergize very well with the new adventure engine, which gave them access to an Omni Negate for basically free. The deck was very powerful and got Miamu banned to basically cycle it out of the format. Could this card come back?
Yes.
Miamu is really only playable in Prank Kids, and Prank Kids, even at full power, wouldn't be a good deck in 2025. Their best case end board is pathetic by current standards. The only reason it's still banned, I assume, is because the intern in charge of the ban list forgot about it. Comment what cards you want to see next. Why is this Yu-Gi-Oh card banned? Part 38. Mathmech Circulor. Mathmech Circulor is a level 4 light Cybers monster. It can dump a Mathmech monster for cost to summon itself from hand, and if you summon a Mathmech monster while you control it, it searches a Mathmech spell or trap. Only restriction is that you can only attack with one monster for the rest of the turn. So why did it get banned? Circulor basically turned the entirety of the Cybers type into a 1-card deck. This 1 card by itself could get you to a lethal line with Access Code Talker through its own restriction thanks to Update Jammer, and going first, it set up Heat Soul plus Super Factorial for 2 draws plus a Trishula that's also a negate. And that's with 1 card. I don't have time to talk about all the infinite Cybers extenders. Circulor just homogenized an entire monster type, and while sometimes Konami is fine with that, they aren't with Cybers. Could this card come back?
No.
Circulor is a card that can only age well. Until a card is released that manages to do even more than Circulor does, it's gonna stay banned for the foreseeable future. Comment what cards you want to see next. Why is this Yu-Gi-Oh card banned? Part 39. Topologic Gumblar Dragon. Topologic Gumblar Dragon is a generic Link 4 requiring 2+ effect monsters, and if a monster is summoned to a zone a Link points to, you can discard up to 2 cards from your hand to force your opponent to do the same. Also, during your main phase, if this card is extra linked, which means both extra monster zones are connected by a chain of arrows, you can perform the first effect, but only your opponent discards. You can only use one of these effects per turn. So why did it get banned? The more I read this card, the more upset it makes me, because there was a definite attempt to try and balance this card. It's a Link 4 that does nothing by itself, requires you to discard as well, and you can only use 1 effect per turn. But at the same time, this card was released with Goki at full power. Firewall Dragon, Isolde, and the Nightmares were all used to facilitate a pseudo FTK that would U-Link, rip 2 cards on your turn, then summon to a zone a Link points to on the opponent's turn to rip 2 more. Fun. Could this card come back? Oh, no. Not much to say here. Gumblar was a horrendous design mistake that I hope Konami never tries to retread. Comment what cards you want to see next. Why is this Yu-Gi-Oh card banned? Part 40. Maxi. Maxi is a monster that can be discarded on either turn to allow you to draw 1 card every time your opponent special summons. So why did it get banned? Maxi is actually a very old card released in 2011. Its initial purpose being to counter heavy combo decks by delaying them for a turn. Funny enough, this niche wasn't good enough for Maxi to see consistent play for several years. It took until around 2016 for Maxi to become a household name. Speed of the game had increased, and alongside it, the need to special summon. We entered a point where every deck needed to special summon multiple times per turn to perform any sort of combo. There became a common joke of taking the Maxi challenge, which basically meant you tried to set up a board so strong it didn't matter how many cards they had, or special summon 35+ times to make your opponent lose a deck out. Of course, both these options were very situational and very impractical. Maxi would prove to be too powerful and would eventually be banned in 2018. Could this card come back? Oh, no. Maxi is a very hotly debated card, but at least from the TCG, it's pretty safe to say this card is never coming back. Konami has released the Mulch Armies, which are just restricted Maxis, so why bother releasing the real thing? Comment what cards you want to see next.